The rivers here in South Mississippi are home to some really unique wildlife species, and it's also one of my favorite habitats to explore, as there's still a lot of animals I have yet to see here. While walking these rivers, one snake I constantly get to see is the Diamondback water snake, also called the chain water snake. These snakes grow to be the largest water snake species, and can be seen basking along riverbanks and hunting at night for fish and frogs. There's a snake. Yes, that's a diamondback. Oop, he's awake now. It's still a bit cold, so our water snakes are not moving too much. Whoa! He's got something big in his stomach. Maybe that's why he's not taking off. Have a look at that snake. Whoa! That is a big diamondback water snake. Have a look at that. Oh, no. He's very chill. This is actually one of the most common water snake species even out here. Diamondback water snakes do get quite a bit bigger than this. However, this is about the typical size of some of the monsters that I see in here. Gotta support his whole body because this is a pretty big water snake. If I held him up just by his tail, he'd probably end up regurgitating whatever's in his stomach. This snake is also known as a chain water snake, and whenever I introduce this snake to people, I always like to call it a chain water snake because when you say diamondback, a lot of people immediately think of the big rattlesnakes. And in fact, this snake gets so big, a lot of people do actually kill this species thinking that it's a rattlesnake, which obviously if you look at the tail, there's no rattle. But they are so big, so chunky, that a lot of people would confuse him. Now the only reason he's not striking at me right now really is because it's a little bit cool. If he was a bit more warmed up, he'd be going nuts. They stink really bad when you try to catch them. They musk all over you, and he definitely did that when I picked him up for sure. This is a really respectable sized diamondback. Look at the way he tries to swim away. Not very fast right now. See, he's just kind of squirming away. I have to guess he's just kind of getting up on the bank to get some sun. He kind of flattens out his head. We don't know whether that's just to try to look bigger or if it's to try to look like a venomous snake, but it's something that unfortunately mixes up a lot of people and they start thinking that this is a moccasin. Now, diamondback water snakes have a pretty similar cousin in these rivers called the green water snake, or the Mississippi green specifically here, and they don't get, just try to bite me. They don't get nearly as big as these chunky diamondback water snakes. They got big bulgy yellow eyes. Really cool snake. They are a very common water snake species out here, but it's really cool to get to see the big ones. Oftentimes you're going to see the little 1 and 2 footers kind of hanging out all along the bank, but these big ones are a little bit less common. Now the snake that people are mostly going to confuse these guys with are going to be water moccasins. Water moccasins do look very similar, especially at a younger age. The patterning can be quite similar. But diamondback water snakes are a non-venomous species, although the bites from these guys still do hurt quite a bit. He's relaxing a little bit, which throughout the rest of the year, I'm not going to get to handle them like this because they're going to be quite a bit warmed up. The most impressive thing about this snake, obviously, is the size. I mean, if you look at that, that's a pretty big snake. Diamondback water snakes are one of the biggest snakes in here, and in fact this would be one of the biggest predators out here. The only things that would eat these out here would be alligator snapping turtles and birds. Occasionally you'll get egrets and herrings and stuff like that, but even they would struggle to eat a snake this size. So when they get to about this size, they are one of the top predators of this ecosystem, and one of the very few things that would actually eat this snake would be an alligator snapping turtle, which actually with some of the recent studies done, they have found that the larger alligator snapping turtles will consistently eat diamondback water snakes in these rivers, which is quite interesting. So even though they're not the very top predator, they're definitely up there. One of the biggest fish eaters out here. They'll eat catfish, bass, and what's crazy is when they try to eat catfish, sometimes the catfish spines will stick through the snake. And I've actually found a bunch of them where the catfish is literally sticking through the snake. It's got to be really painful, I'm sure. But it's crazy, but most of the time these snakes will survive that. The better things for them to be eating would be cockahoe minnows, bass, perch, and fish like that. I'd have to guess what he's got in his stomach would be like a perch or a small bass. But definitely looks really healthy. We're going to go ahead and put him back on this bank. He's probably going to take off back into the water, but that's fine. Beautiful snake, and I'm glad we're getting to show you guys one of these massive diamondback water snakes that live here in these rivers. Alrighty, so we found him like right there, but I figured since if we put him back, he'd just swim off immediately. So if I put him in here, he might kind of like swim back and find his way there. So, alright, see ya, big boy. That is an awesome snake. Well guys, that's it for today's video. We really hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, consider subscribing. And if you enjoyed this video, go check out the video we did with Burmese pythons in the Everglades. And I will see you guys next time.